Recently, I set out for Dungeness Bay, about a 90-minute drive plus a 25-minute ferry ride from me. The main jewel that I went to explore is the Dungeness National Wildlife Refuge, but there were several other smaller spots along the bay that I went to spend some time at. Before getting into what I saw, here's some quick info about the area I got from volunteers working at the entrance. Dungeness Spit is the longest natural sand spit in the United States at 5 miles long. And you need to pay attention to the tides if you're going to try to hike all the way out, as much of the hikeable area will be encroached by the surf. And the spit is home to nesting and migratory birds, so some of the sections that I was able to explore here are only open through the end of September. Before I even got down to the beach, which is only a half-mile hike, there was a familiar knocking throughout the woods. The pileated woodpecker, and it has now become a pretty common sighting for me. And I saw another one later in the day, and while I didn't get this part on camera, this one specifically showed me how loud they can be, not just their knocks, but their calls too. But once I did make it down to the beach, there were two birds that I saw more than any other. There were tons of both killdeer and the new species, the Semipalmated Plover. It wasn't until I got a little bit closer where I really saw just how small these plovers were. And they were in pretty large groups too. I'd say the biggest ones I saw were at least a couple of dozen. There were a couple of great blue herons and gulls sitting out on what looked to be seaweed or kelp floating not far out from shore, but there was not much activity down on the beach. However, this one photo I was taking of a gull, when I couldn't even see through my viewfinder that there was something back there, I noticed afterwards that there were these couple of little birds out there, and I really can't tell what they are, so if anybody recognizes these, please let me know what you think. On my way up to the car, there were tons of birds in the forested parts of the park. There were a bunch of brown creepers and red-breasted nuthatches, and I saw this hairy woodpecker for a short time. After leaving the refuge, the next spot I went to was called Cline Spit. Here, there was a decent-sized flock of gulls on the beach, and there was really a good mix of species. I believe it was mostly ring-billed gulls with a few American herring gulls and glaucous-winged gulls mixed in. This was also the only spot this day where I saw a bald eagle, and there was a harbor seal making a short appearance. Next was Dungeness Landing County Park, where there was a much larger group of gulls going crazy on the salmon scraps left behind by fishermen earlier in the day. This group, I think, is mostly glaucous-winged gulls and western gulls with probably a few hybrids in between. There was also a great blue heron hanging out amongst the gulls, and while it never actually struck, it looked like it was going to for a while. And then there was a belted kingfisher perched right on top of a post along the shore. My fourth and final location was a little access site off of Three Crabs Road. Here I saw a small group of greater yellowlegs, and it gave the best view of probably hundreds of gulls way beyond past any foot access areas. This trip was just short of the farthest I've gone for birding or photography after Othello, but this is definitely the largest amount of time I've spent in one sitting. It was a lot of fun, and getting to explore habitats and areas for the first time always gives it an extra boost. And you can follow me on TikTok at Chris Mitchell Photo. That's where I post a lot of the still images I get from a lot of these trips, and I'll put that link in the description, and thanks for watching.